This week, Wham Bam Dashcam is packed with wild wrecks, convenient cops, terrifying T-bones, and more. It's time for the best dashcam show on the planet, Wham Bam Dashcam.
Take me down to Dashcam Stories where the cars are fast and they crash in glory. Oh, Wham Bam Dashcam!
Tanim was headed to work when he approached a Tahoe hogging the passing lane. Tanim used the travel lane to get around him, which is legal in the United States, but then traffic ahead of him suddenly slowed down. The Tahoe slammed into Tanim's BMW X5, pushing it into the pickup truck in front of him. All his airbags deployed, and BMW Assist automatically summoned first responders. When state troopers arrived, they watched his dashcam footage and found the Tahoe driver responsible for the collision. Thankfully, nobody was injured. Tanim told us he had no pain or soreness at all. Unfortunately, his X5 was totaled, but he just ordered a new M3 competition. He told us his was the first X5 of this body style to be involved in a collision at this speed, and he spent several months talking to BMW engineers about it. Tanim told us that thanks to this event, he'll always have a BMW SUV in the stable. Dennis had just left Cracker Barrel and was taking his dad to look for a new van. When their light turned green, another driver turned across their lane, causing a head-on collision.
What the f***?
The driver's airbag deployed, filling the car with smoke. Thankfully, nobody was injured, but Dennis' Ford Focus was totaled and had to be towed away. The other car was a rental, and it was towed away as well. The other driver was cited by the police for using his cell phone while driving. He'd been traveling for work and had been trying to find a gas station. Rob was driving down a highway and passing traffic in the passing lane. A pickup driver that had been tailgating him got impatient and cut all the way over to the exit lane to speed around him. Whoops! The pickup driver didn't realize that the Ford Explorer in the travel lane was an unmarked patrol car and he was quickly pulled over. Rob just laughed and kept driving. Francesco was enjoying a calm drive home after work when the driver ahead of him slowed down, possibly to say hello to a pedestrian on the sidewalk. The driver behind him was distracted and didn't notice until it was too late. The other driver was very apologetic and accepted fault for the accident. Repairing Francesco's Suzuki Swift cost over $3,400 after it took the brunt of the impact. Thankfully, nobody was injured. Here's another one from Rob. On his way to work, he realized the truck in front of him had lost a wheel when he saw sparks flying. He continued carefully on his way to work, not knowing where the rogue tire would go next. Some of our viewers have suggested that the cart demon has a brother, the tire demon, who yanks tires and wheels off of moving vehicles. What do you think? Is there a tire demon at work? Josh was driving with his girlfriend when he noticed a car flying up behind him. He merged over to the right to give the other driver some extra space, but then the other car dove across lanes, nearly sideswiping him. Thankfully, Josh was able to swerve all the way to the shoulder and dodge the car. A little further down the road, he stopped and checked to see if there was any damage to his car, but he didn't find any. Donovan was driving when he watched a semi-truck driver struggle to negotiate a tight turn in the middle of downtown Rockford, Illinois. After a pickup driver had to swerve to give the truck room, the side of the trailer made contact with the traffic light, nearly pulling it down. Donovan told us the trailer was basically undamaged, but the traffic light pole was severely dented and scratched. Alpha Wolf was headed home when the driver of a Toyota Tacoma turned from a straight-only lane, nearly sideswiping him in the process. After cutting into Alpha Wolf's lane, the pickup driver narrowly missed hitting the curb, finally getting out of the bike lane and back onto the road. I wonder what they were thinking. Carlos had just picked up an Uber rider and was on his way to their destination when another driver came flying out of a parking lot before stopping in the road in front of him. His passenger was shocked by the other car and thankful that Carlos has such quick reflexes. Trish was driving in Queens when she watched a driver proceed through a stop sign and get T-boned by another car. She stopped and checked on everyone and gave her dashcam footage to one of the drivers, who she remains friends with to this day. JoJo captured this week's Tesla behaving badly when he watched a white Model 3 turn left from the right lane and end up going the wrong way.
That Tesla man can't drive. That Tesla man can't drive.
I thought for sure the Tesla driver would figure out their mistake and turn left onto the next road, but nope. They just continued down another one-way road against traffic. What do you think? Is Tesla's full self-driving going rogue? Akash from Houston, Texas has sent us clips before, and he sent us a bunch more. In this one, an Infiniti driver ran their red light and nearly caused a head-on collision. Luckily, the other driver noticed their mistake and braked in time. The subject of Akash's next submission wasn't so lucky. Still in Houston, Akash was talking to his friend who'd left his BMW running while they discussed their evening plans. The other driver offered to pay for any damage, but they couldn't find any, even though it sounded like a bad impact. Akash sent us another clip from his drive to work. A Ford F-150 driver started changing lanes without noticing the Ram 1500 Rebel next to him. Head on a swivel, Akash. Houston drivers be crazy. Jack was on his way home from college after his first day back from Christmas break. When traffic slowed down, a jeepney, a form of public transportation in the Philippines, ran into the back of his Ford Everest. After hitting Jack's SUV, the jeepney hit a Hyundai van as well. The jeepney was full of passengers who piled out and had to hitch rides with strangers to get to their destinations. Fixing Jack's SUV will cost $10,000 and getting the replacement parts to do so will take 3 to 4 weeks. Thankfully, he was able to drive it off the highway while the jeepney had to be towed. Victor was heading home from work when he noticed a car approaching from behind, cutting around traffic on the shoulder and driving with no lights on. Victor honked and flashed his high beams to warn other drivers, and it seems like the reckless driver appreciated it because he slowed down and gestured to Victor that he's number one. He then rejoined traffic on the actual road and continued driving down the highway. Rashad was driving in Kansas City, Missouri, not to be confused with Kansas City, Kansas, when he watched a cyclist fly into the road in front of an SUV. Rashad said the cyclist was cursing loudly, but the SUV didn't stop and the cyclist didn't chase after them. It was late at night after Jessica had driven 5 hours for a family emergency. She was 5 minutes from her parents' house when the driver of a white Camry turned right from the left lane. Jessica honked and swerved, but it wasn't enough to avoid a collision. The impact ripped off the rear wheel on the driver's side and spun the car 270 degrees. Police witnessed the accident and were on the scene in seconds. The other driver admitted fault and both vehicles had to be towed away. Thankfully, nobody was injured. The other driver's insurance coverage paid for Jessica's totaled Honda CR-V, and she used the money to buy a bright green Jeep Renegade that she named Yoshi. She told us, "A $40 dash cam saved me." Martin was driving west toward Los Angeles to hang out with a friend when he merged right to avoid taking an exit that he wasn't meaning to take. Unfortunately, the driver of a white Camry had the same idea at the same time. As both drivers merged into the same lane in front of a semi-truck, the two vehicles made contact. Martin started pulling over to exchange information, but the other driver took off, weaving between cars before disappearing. Martin has contacted his insurance provider and is currently waiting on a repair estimate, but he wants to know who you think is at fault. His insurance provider says he's 50% responsible. Felix sent us this clip from his daughter's first time driving. She was doing fine in his Ford Mustang until she went to make a right turn at a stop sign. She didn't turn sharp enough at first, then she hit the gas before going off-road.
No. Now strict check. Amber! Why'd you floor it?
I didn't mean to.
Fortunately, there were no injuries, the car wasn't damaged, and Felix was able to get it back onto the road. Felix said he watches our channels with Amber all the time, and she's always pointing out Teslas. Don't worry, Amber, you're not doing any worse than most Mustang drivers. Relax, it's just a joke.